This is Tim Broshinsky. I'll put all of your Instagram stuff up on the screen.
Cool.
And we'll talk about that at the end. He does exotic photography, really, for cars.
Well, I do automotive photography as the entire spectrum.
Right.
I don't stick to one thing. I mean, I think this weekend was the most diverse weekend
Really?
I've ever had
What'd
in
you shoot this
photography. I did the Hellcat red eye, the wide body red eye. And then on Saturday night, I did a 79 Corolla SR5 liftback.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
And I saw your post of older Corollas are better than new Corollas.
Yes.
Which is funny because I just filmed the 2020 Corolla.
Okay,
And I was like,
sweet.
I was like, those are so different.
Yeah, they're vastly different. It was just more of like something I put on there because they just look cooler. You know, obviously driving is modern cars, they drive so much better than the classics. But then again, the classic is such a novelty. And even being in that car, the smells, the sounds, like it's just crazy. You feel everything. It was a carbed 4-cylinder. So it sounded really cool. It smelled great.
Liter?
Honestly, I can't remember how big it was. I just know, but it's funny because that car weighs. He told me I think it weighed 1,900 pounds with him in it.
Jeez.
So it's super light, and even though it's just a little 4-cylinder, it's carved. It got up to speed so quick, so it just doesn't weigh anything.
Right.
And it's you know what I mean. It may only be like 100 horsepower or somewhere around that number, but. It's so light, and you hear everything, and the gear changes, and it sounds so good. I don't know what it is about old 4-cylinders, but they sound amazing.
Carbureted 4-cylinders sound drastically better than any fuel-injected 4-cylinder.
Right, yeah.
But so before we get too far, it's at Tim Bro.
It's just Tim Bro Photo for Instagram. It's Tim Bro Photography on Facebook. That will soon change too. I have a website, but I'm not gonna bother sharing that yet because that needs to be under a huge reconstruction. So
if you guys are watching the video, I'll leave it in the link in the description once it is done.
Cool, sweet.
But yeah, I did a little set design for Tim today. Don't ever expect set design ever again. I thought I'd break out the Diablo and Murcielago. Speaking of which, you photographed one of these, which is my dream.
That's my dream car as well.
It was the red 6-speed.
Yeah,
right?
It was a 2003 Rosso Vic 6-speed Murcielago. So it was a first generation 6.2 liter V12 Murcielago, and I gotta tell you, like my dream car ever since I was a child was the Murcielago because the first racing game I ever bought or I ever had was Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2.
Yes, with the yellow one on the cover. I had it for GameCube and PlayStation 2.
The thing that I loved about it was that I've always liked the opposition with most things. Like growing up, I kind of liked the villains and stuff like that. And it seemed to me, like learning about the company and also seeing like the Ferrari in the front, it seemed like the Lamborghini was the opposition company. And you know what I mean? It's just a wild car, and just seeing it, run from the police in the trailer and all that stuff. And then obviously as you grow up, you realize, holy crap, first of all, an F-355 would get the doors blown off it by a Murcielago. Doesn't matter what year it is.
Yeah.
So, but how it's always chasing the Ferrari, I just thought that was like, dude, I love that car. It's amazing.
That's so funny because that opening sequence where they're racing and then it's either the Ferrari or the Lambo flashes the lights at the other one and they're like going in and out. Like, I think that intro shaped part of my life.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure you could say the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's interesting is I was huge into cars as a kid. I took probably the biggest break from cars. I got into the military. I was into I went through like a weapons phase. I was watching all the Discovery Channel shows, and I was really into that stuff. Then I kind of fell out of it. I was just into a random variety of things, a little bit of sports, and all it took was my 7th grade vacation to California on spring break. I'm sitting there in this rental car that I'm with my dad and my brother. And we're sitting there at the light, and all of a sudden I hear 2 very loud downshifts. I look to my right. There it is, a first-generation Murcielago with the dual tips in the rear, yellow, clearly aftermarket exhaust, so loud, Murcielago. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And that was that piqued my interest again, because I'm like, I never thought I'd see one of these in my entire life, period.
Right.
And there it was. I was just like, wow. And then, obviously, I didn't actually start getting into automotive until about sophomore year in high school, so I haven't really you know, I've been in the local scene for about 3 years, but is a broad spectrum. I really got into it my sophomore year of high school. I took an autos class for about a year. The mechanical stuff bores the hell out of me,
Really?
like in terms of like actually working on stuff with my hands, and also I may or may not have ruined one of the class engines on accident because
We won't say where at.
I
There's a poor
there
engine
was like
somewhere.
there was one of the bolts for the top end of the block, and you know obviously you torque to spec, and for some reason I was still torquing this bolt, and I'm like, this thing is not tightening. What's going on? I realized that the bolt was like this long, about, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches long. The bolt that would screw into the head was about 3. So the whole time that I'm screwing this bolt in, it's just tearing through the clip of the other side of so the top end of the motor to the bottom end of the motor, the piece that the screw goes into, or the bolt the piece that the bolt goes into was
Yeah.
just grinding straight through that, you know, the bottom of the yeah, the other part. So that being said, I was like, okay, maybe hands-on stuff,
Yeah.
mechanic stuff, not for me. I've always been into the creative side of automotive,
I
so
was gonna ask how you got into photography. Then.
yeah. So basically, what happened is I I don't remember the specific situation. But I was driving home one day, and I just saw a car show. I pulled in, started looking at cars, and then I was thinking to myself, you know, maybe there's some local groups or something. And my friend told me about Chicagoland Petrolheads and Car Spotters, which is
Yeah.
a huge Facebook group.
I think
They're
it's at like 80,000.
over 80.
Like
It's
that. Yeah.
talking like 85. I think it's pushing 86,000 members or
Jeez.
more.
Yeah.
It's a great group of people, diverse, interesting characters in the group, but I'm super cool with a lot of the people on the bigger end. I'm super thankful that I have people like the creator of the group who allows me to share my photography work there. His name's Jeremy, but
Shout out Jeremy.
yeah, absolutely. So what happened is, you know, I was going to a bunch of car shows, and I was getting into the Supercar Saturdays and the Iron Gate Motor
Oh, yeah.
Condos
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
these huge local meets, and I'm going and I'm like, you know what? I'm seeing a lot of the same cars, and you know, to be completely honest, I'm getting a little bit bored.
Right.
And I started seeing on the Chicagoland Petrolheads page that there's these people like, you know, someone like that I know personally is Matthew Groner. He was posting all
Big
these,
name in
yeah, absolutely.
Car Spotters. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's an admin too. And you know, he was taking these crazy pictures of cars like he was finding on the street or at car shows or blah blah blah. And I'm just like, you know what? That's something that's really cool to me.
Right.
So I borrowed my mother's camera. She used to do wedding photography.
Oh, okay.
And
stressful job.
yes,
Stressful
yeah, and
job.
I have an experience with wedding photography, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. But essentially, what was the turning point for me is I just started shooting around, and every photographer will say it, but at first I was terrible. I was absolutely awful. I thought I was great, but I was terrible.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was my father, and he had a camera that he never used, and it was a much newer camera than the one I was using for my mother. He didn't need it anymore, so he lent it to me. And it's a Nikon D3300, so it was on a
Okay.
newer
Are
scale
you
of
team
like.
Nikon?
So honestly, I mean, because I've only used Nikon.
Okay.
I had that Canon was the first camera. I can't remember the specific Canon, but it was an older camera. I think it may have been like a 15 or 13 megapixel
Right.
sensor. It was a crop sensor camera, and same thing with the D3300, but that's at 24.2. So there's a pretty big
Right.
quality difference in just the files themselves.
Yeah.
And of course, I was shooting auto JPEG to start, and
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of people were actually shocked when they found out that like at least 5 months to 6 months in, I was still shooting auto JPEG, and no one knew.
Yeah.
No one had a clue, and
That's kind of a grown-up moment when you
Oh,
switch
yeah.
over to RAW.
oh
You're
yeah,
like, I
raw
shoot
and
raw
full,
now.
yep, and full manual settings and all
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff. But you know, I went to the Lake Forest Concourse. That was the day after I got this camera.
Okay.
So I had 2 lenses that came with it, which was the factory 18-55, which I still use for my rolling shots.
Really?
Any wide interior angle photo or rolling shots is my kit 18-55 as of right now.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So but but my starting kit was 18 to 55 and a 55 to something. It was a longer time. I think it was 55 to 200.
I think that's the one I might have. I'm not
because
sure.
those are like the two factory kit zoom
Right,
lenses
yeah,
that come
yeah.
with the camera. But I started with those lenses. At that event, the Koenigsegg 1-1 arrived, and that was the first time it ever made a debut in Chicago, and it's one of 7 examples on the entire world. And I took some pictures, and I was just like, whatever. I saw everyone was posting the pictures to Chicagoland petrolheads, and I figured, you know what, I'm pretty sure everyone's tired of it, but I like some photo feedback.
Right.
I posted the photos. It got a ton of attention, and I got some good feedback. And then I met a few more professional people down the line, and they were kind of telling me what I was doing wrong. And one of my good friends, Josh Zuelk, he early on in my career, I was sending him a lot of my work, and he was tearing it apart. And I told him, I said, just lay it to me, just hit me head on. Do not hold back. I would like to know what's wrong with my work.
Right.
And he was tearing everything I did apart, but it made me learn so quickly what I was doing wrong. And I was making those adjustments to do the right things. So that's how I learned so quickly, because I've only been doing photography for about 2.5 years now.
Right.
So, but that's kind of where I started. And then I just had a desire to push for the creative. And I had a few breakthrough moments about like halfway through. I did I'd probably say 6 to 9 months in, I did the 3 Diablo photo shoot.
I did a deep dive on your Instagram before you got here.
Yeah. A lot of the early stuff. Thank you. A lot of the early stuff was rough, like very rough. But the thing is everyone starts somewhere. There's a lot of mistakes that I wish I didn't make in that shoot. There's a lot of things I wish I would have changed.
Right.
But the good thing is I found the raw files. So I still have all the original raw files from that day. I'm actually I've been considering going back and re-editing the whole shoot as if it was something recent for me. So
that's interesting. I'm curious to see those changes and what changes you would make.
Huge.
I'm sure
changes.
that. Which, by the way, do you edit with Lightroom?
So
what do you edit with?
I do Lightroom and Photoshop. Lightroom is about 90 to 95% of what I do. I purely use Photoshop for heavy removals of objects in the way, because I think Lightroom is not the best at that.
Okay.
I'm not satisfied with the healing and cloning tools on Lightroom. Oh man, sometimes it drives me nuts. I could go on a rant about how much those tools piss me off.
I have 18 hours of recording. So let's get to but yeah, I've never dabbled with Lightroom, and I've been meaning to. I've always just done, because I just do simple thumbnails and stuff. I obviously don't do what you do.
Right.
But we were talking about this earlier, and this is like what I'm really interested in, is how do you get the clients, the clientele?
How do I get the clientele? Okay, so there's a little bit, there's secrets to what I do.
Which don't share,
Yeah.
That's there is industry stuff that you got.
Absolutely. And there's I really haven't shared specifically how I acquire clients, but I think if I were to give general tips, I think the number one thing is be genuinely interested in the car and the client. Know their story, understand, why they like what they like. And I love to work with enthusiasts. I've worked with a range of people, whether they're just in it for a fad or whether they're just in it because they have a huge passion for cars, or I'm in it, or I've met people that have made a massive switch between the cars that they've owned. So I've worked with people that have had certain cars at one point, then they switch to exotic and whatnot. So they kind of explore their options.
Yeah.
But I think the number one thing for me is be genuine and be genuinely interested in the cars and the people behind them.
Right.
Be an enthusiast. Be interested. Don't. And I've seen people make these mistakes where they will they say, "Oh, I really like your car. You want to do a photo shoot?"
Right.
Unfortunately, that's just not how you do it. You need to build a connection.
Right.
That's another thing too. Is
that's
build a connection.
100% what I found with reviews too is that I always walk through the car and I'm like, because some people will be like, "Oh, I have this," and I'm like, No, I think that's awesome. I think this car is awesome.
Right.
I had, I just reviewed it was a 97 Lincoln Mark 8.
Okay.
The long two-door,
right.
air ride. He's like, yeah, he's pretty excited about this and this. And I'm like, dude, I think this is super cool. I filmed a GTR last year.
Mm-hmm.
This is equally cool to me. Like,
Yeah.
just the fact that, like, this is what luxury was in the 90s and stuff like that. So I definitely agree with what you're saying. And so actually, I have it on my phone. I went through your Instagram.
Oh boy!
And I picked out a couple cars that I just wanted to talk to you.
Oh sure,
about.
Absolutely.
So the first one I have is the 560 SEC AMG.
Oh yeah.
What? Now, do you drive these cars or no?
I have driven a fair bit of them. Mm-hmm. I generally don't straight up ask the client, hey, can I drive your car? Because I don't want to impose anything. It's not my business. It's their car. I'm there to take photos. But given the opportunities, I have driven a few cars. I've ridden in a few cars. I can't say I've driven the 560 SEC, but I've ridden in that car. I think that's one of the only cars I've ever been in where you actually cannot feel the transmission shift.
Really?
It is
automatic?
Yes. Okay. That car is the 5-speed automatic. It might be a 4 with overdrive, I'm not sure, but that car was completely butter smooth through every single gear change, and it's from the 80s. That car, I actually cannot describe how that transmission feels because you can't feel it. You can't feel anything.
Yeah. Going back to the Lincoln Mark 8 that I did, that was the biggest thing about that car was the fact that I couldn't feel the trans shift, and it was what, 97? And I'm like, for a 90s trans, if it's still running today without a rebuild, thumbs up. So the fact that, what year was this?
87 maybe?
It? No, it's not in the. At least it's not in the screenshot.
I can't remember what year it is. So that client is the owner of a couple other cars that I've worked with. He owned at one point a silver Diablo. He owned a blue Diablo SV Monterey.
Okay.
And he also he has a new collection or a couple switch out cars. He has the red Murcielago, and he has another car coming. Can't talk about it yet. You'll see the work first, and then of course. But then he has the AMG. He's been an incredible client. He's been one of my longest running clients. Next to one of my good clients, Dean. He has quite a few cars. He has the blue C4 Corvette that nearly went viral. It's the Viper blue, painted with the wing and the C5.
Does it have holes cut in the front? Am I thinking of the same one?
No, that would be the gray. That would be the Sonic Gray C4.
Right. Okay.
That belongs to his son. It's very cool.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. They're a C4 family. It's sick.
That's funny.
And he also has the Callaway, and he has a lot of cars. Which is really
the Callaway was an interesting shoot. I don't have it on here, but the Callaway that got featured on 1320, right? Yeah, that was huge. I saw that, and I barely knew you before this, but I always knew of you, like, and like I saw you at shows and stuff,
right?
And like when you got that posted, like even I felt a little like someone from our community, man, like they're making it, like that was really cool.
The red eye got put on there.
Really? Yeah. I didn't see that post. Dang.
I think yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, yesterday. But, the Red Eye was on there. That got a lot of likes because there's not a whole lot of Red Eye content yet.
It's kind of a middle child, in my opinion.
Yeah. People don't really know how to feel about it because it's almost kind of like we've seen it already. But in reality, it's just what it is it's the demon being able to be sold in... it's the demon, not the whole demon, but it is essentially the demon that can be sold for a much more affordable price.
Right.
Demons were going anywhere from like at lowest low like 85 to like 100, and in some cases if you really got screwed 100 plus.
They really got you, which they got
absolutely, people. Yeah. They're holding their value okay, which is shocking. They're actually still holding a premium. I don't expect that to be for very long, but the Red Eye, you can get one. You can get into one in a narrow body. No options except Red Eye package for $66,000, and that's a 797 horsepower car.
Still,
you know what I mean, and especially when you're thinking about drag racing, that is on a beadlock, a low 10-second car,
right?
And that's unreal.
Yeah, for what you say, 66?
Yeah, 66,000.
Still,
around there.
Let's say taxes and stuff, $70,000. Still, that's an insane. I didn't know that.
Absolutely, but then again, that's with no options. You get base stereo, no satellite navigation. Like they actually skimped on the options very, very, very hard. Yeah, everything almost everything became an option for the Red Eye. That's what made the prices on like the fully optioned ones jump to almost 90 plus. But they are amazing cars. I've been in a fair number of Challengers. I've ridden in a Demon. I've driven 1,000 horsepower Challenger multiple times.
Same, Paul's?
Yes. Yep,
same one. I drove that one too.
Crazy car.
Yeah,
crazy
that
car.
is an insane vehicle. He gave it to me for an afternoon.
That's
and
sweet. Yeah, that is an opinion changing car for me.
Yes.
But what's strange though is after the 16, the interiors got so much better. It's not even a comparison. The fit and finish comparison from 17 to 16 is immense. That's why the Demons felt so much more put together than the Hellcat. Because when I did the Demon and the Hellcat, I did that little photo shoot of the first Demon that came to the...
That was super cool.
Thanks. So when I did that photo shoot, and I sat in the Demon, I'm like, wait a minute, the door feels like the panels feel stronger and everything doesn't like creak and rattle and it feels like a much nicer car. And then I rode in the Red Eye and same thing. You know, they really stepped up the quality on the panel fitment in the interior and all that stuff. But love that car. Love the Red Eye.
So next one up here is I have the GTC4 Lusso T.
Okay, sweet.
Ferrari.
Yep, absolutely.
This is like the not hatchback, but
it's a shooting brake.
Right. Okay, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
What was that? Because those are V12s.
So the GTC4. This is where it gets confusing.
Okay.
GTC4 Lusso is the V12. GTC4 Lusso T is the twin turbo V8 and it's rear wheel drive versus the 4-wheel drive.
Interesting.
So, but that is the V8 rear wheel drive and I've seen how people kind of scoff if they find out it's a T and not a Lusso. I got to tell you, the experience is still incredible. You have a 600 horsepower twin turbo V8. It's lively. It wants to kick the back end out. It's a hatch and that wants to get sideways. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's a cool car. That belongs to Mike at 312 Supercars. He's public. He's got his Instagram on there. He has lots of cars I've worked with.
I've heard that name come up. 312 Supercars. Yep. Okay. Next one I have up is the Performante.
Okay.
It's the blue one.
Right. Okay.
Was this in Chicago?
Yeah, that was in Chicago. That was at Northerly Island. Mm-hmm. And so we had the purple GT3 RS there and then the Huracan Performante. And it's interesting. It was interesting to have both of those cars conveniently come because they're both naturally aspirated track cars. Yeah. Is what their intended audience is. So, but no, the Performante, I haven't ridden in one. I haven't driven one. But I would say styling-wise, it is about 1,000,000 miles ahead of any Huracan before it.
Really?
It is just a far superior looking, sounding car, and it just feels impeccably special to be near. Mm-hmm. And even though it's a mass-produced they've probably made 1,000 or a couple thousand at this point. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. They didn't put a cap on the Performante production for the year, so they just kind of built them, and then now we're on to the Evo, which is essentially the Performante evolution of the car. But that was definitely another one that was a really cool moment because it was all in the timing. Yeah. We had some complications with one of the cars arriving, so then when everyone was there and we were all ready to shoot, and I did a collaboration with Matthew Groner and Max Evans. And,
I just had him on the last podcast. Max Evans,
awesome. He's a super nice guy. His work is getting great. It's getting really, really good, and it's exciting to see that. I love to see changes with photographers. It's so cool. And
it really, this is gonna come out in like a week or something.
Okay.
With like Endgame coming out, Avengers and stuff, it kind of feels like you guys are almost assembling this sort of team. I mean, it really does feel like that because you guys are getting so good.
Yeah.
And it's like people my age. It's like just seeing all this collaboration. Like I saw on Max's story that he was out with you, doing the shoot, and I'm like, that's awesome. Like I love the collaboration. I love that there, at least in my opinion, there's no beef between people. I haven't really seen much beef. I'm
not
sure
too much.
I'm sure behind closed doors, there's a little bit here and there, but like
for
the most part,
you're always gonna have negative things being said. Sometimes it's good to hear it though.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes it's really good to hear the negative comments because it's either because it challenges you to the point where you can either determine is that a genuine criticism or is that completely nonsense.
And I think the biggest thing is that if you have the creative vision there, any criticism is good because you know that you can stay on that track, just adjust that track. I think if you don't really have a good vision, or if I also hate that word, like, oh, you gotta have the vision. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get too, metacognition or whatever. But, like, I think if you have a strong, like, sense of yourself, you know your style. Yeah. 100%. And I think that's a huge thing. If anyone's listening and wants to be a photographer, I think just have your strong vision.
Have your style, but what's funny or what I would definitely suggest is to anyone that's trying to, get into automotive photography is experiment. Do things you're not comfortable with. Try different things. For me, I have a style. I have a consistency. However, I try to make my shoots look different every time. I try different angles. I try vastly different settings with cars. And my editing is actually, and this is something I think pretty much zero people know, so I guess this is breaking news.
This is an exclusive here on the Shooting Cars YouTube channel or Spotify or iTunes or wherever you're listening.
So I actually believe I've never told anyone this. A lot of my editing is inspired from the music I'm listening to.
Really?
And it's all because cars give me a stylistic period. They give me a vision of, like when I look at cars, I imagine the music that someone would be listening to, or music of the period of the car that comes out.
Right, that's an interesting.
Like, I listen, like if I'm editing the Countach, which will be coming out soon.
Okay.
If I'm editing the Countach, anything 80s, so the 560
Synthwave.
SEC.
Please tell me
Synthwave.
Yes!
I'm listening to Tesla Boy.
Yes!
I'm listening to all kinds of crazy stuff, especially, oh man, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank here. Well, anyways, just anything 80s is essentially what I go for.
Right.
There's Stevie Wonder. That's another one. For the 560 SEC, lots of Stevie Wonder went into that. And music has genuinely inspired, I would say, the vast majority of my photo shoots. And it's because if I look at a car, I imagine the time, the era, the music that's involved with it, and just the style, and it helps me envision what the art would have looked like, or what people kind of imagine something to look like from that period.
Right.
So that's
so cool. Because I totally, I mean, obviously we're here in 2019. Synthwave has been gone for a long time.
Yeah.
Although it is making a comeback. But I have a Synthwave playlist for when I drive the RX-7. Because it's from 85.
Oh, yeah.
It's a red car with red interior.
Yeah,
it's manual everything, except for I do have power windows. Very happy with that. But, like, it's just that you do get into this mindset. And that's so interesting that you...
Yeah.
What about with color? Do you think color is affected by music? Or, like, it's... what sort of... attributes are affected by music?
It's really the car that I'm looking at.
Okay.
It really does come down to what I'm working with. You know what's actually interesting? It's harder for me to find music to edit to with modern stuff. Anything to 2010 plus, it's hard. Because it's hard for me to find a specific character or genre that I don't mind listening to, because I'm not the biggest fan of everything that comes out today, obviously.
Right.
But I have, sometimes it's hard for me to envision, what someone would listen to in a modern 488, a Lusso, Range Rover SVR, something like that. And sometimes then I'll just listen to whatever I want. But for the vast majority of my work, it's stuff that's style, it's music styles of the period. And yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered going off of time period and stuff? And I've been starting to do this a little bit recently in my videos. Is I found a camcorder from 2000 that films on tapes.
Oh man.
And so like I filmed the Lincoln. I filmed part of that on tape. I filmed what else? Oh, it actually the video's coming out. Well, it'll already be out. It's a '99 Corolla, and like it was pretty decently clean. So like I filmed it like it would have been in '99.
Okay.
Have you ever considered film or any sort of like older cameras to actually get that feel?
I have not, and it's mainly because my budget is so tight.
Right.
I just can't. I can't do anything. I invested a decent amount into one lens, and I think the next step for me is a different body. So that costs a lot. A body is going to set you back.
Full frame?
I'm going with I'm thinking next camera is going to be the Z7. So
Is that I'm not
full frame mirrorless.
Yeah, sell your house.
Yeah, mirrorless
to get a
camera.
full frame.
Yeah, so it's going to be anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000 for the body. Well, 3,500 for the body itself, and then 4,000 if it comes with one lens.
Can you use your current lenses with that, or are you switching?
I have to get a mount
adapter.
The problem is all my lenses are designed for crops, so I'm gonna get the heavy vignetting around the edges unless I zoom into a specific millimeter, and then it will go away. That's my sidekick lens for a while now has been my Sigma 50 to 100 1.8.
Okay.
And that is the only zoomable prime in the world, which means that it can zoom in all the way to 100 millimeters at a 1.8 aperture.
Wow.
Problem with that lens though is in any kind of low lighting condition you better have a tripod because
Really?
it has no stabilization. There's none. 0. And that's because I'm assuming it has something to do with the aperture. But that has been my sidekick for quite some time. I've done a lot of my work with that lens. I can't say too many bad things about it other than, of course, Sigma has a few focusing issues with my camera body, and I've also heard it could just be the camera body because I've heard that the D3300 has focusing issues.
Yeah.
So with a $1,100 lens on like a $500 body, you might run into some some issues. But for the most part, it's been everything I could ask it to be. I've actually gotten to the point where I've had people ask me what kind of full frame I'm using or what kind of mirrorless camera I'm using, but the answer is it's a crop, and it's just a Sigma lens.
Yeah,
that's really what makes the huge difference.
One of the funniest tweets I saw is from a photographer who photographs musicians, but he tweeted some DMs that he got. Okay, it was like, "Hey bro, like what camera do you use?" And he told him, and like a week later, the guy was like, "Hey man, are you sure it's the right camera? Because my photos aren't coming out like yours." And it's man. I'm sure you get that too. And it's like,
I'm not
using auto mode.
What's funny is, it really just comes down to editing.
Yeah,
everyone's got a lot of people have a hugely different editing style.
And some people aren't willing to put the time in either.
Right. It's funny because I show people kind of like how, like I've shown a few people that are close to me how I edit, and they go, "I don't know how you have the patience for that." Yeah. And I'm like, I just do. It's something I adapted. Something I was able to learn how to do.
I envy that you can listen to music while edit. Because with audio, I have to sit there and like, I'll try to turn something on like a show or something, but then I'm like, pause, edit, watch. Now it's too loud, pause, edit. Oh, God, it drives me insane. But... so last car that I want to talk about that I screenshotted, we've already mentioned it, but the red Murcielago.
Oh yeah.
What was that day like?
That day was like a dream. It's like your childhood memories are all just crammed into one day. It was unreal. I caught myself listening to the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 soundtrack on the way to the shoot. I have
it on my iTunes.
And listening to a lot of that early 2000s new metal to get the vibe for the editing But that couldn't have been a better day. Lighting could have been more. The lighting could have been. It was bright daylight.
Yeah,
you can see that in the photos. You can see that, but everything is properly exposed. So I was super super happy with that.
Right,
but there was fall colors on the trees. You had this vivid deep red. It's not quite as saturated as Rosso Andromeda, which is the crazier, more saturated red color that was available on a lot of the first gen Lamborghinis. So the first gen Gallardo and the Murcielago had Rosso Andromeda as a color, but the Rosso Vic Oh man, what a color and what a car! Because that really changed the game for me. Was that Murcielago? I feel like that was a moment, one of my breakthrough points where you just see a huge difference in the quality of the editing and the shots and the creativity, especially. That was probably so far probably my favorite shoot of all time.
It has to. I mean, that's just like a nostalgic roundhouse kick you in the face that day.
Absolutely.
So tell me about the car, though, because there's a gated 6-speed, right?
Yep.
Oh.
So the thing is when you say 6-speed Murcielago, everyone freaks out. And I totally understand that because 6-speed, V12, modern Lamborghini, hard to come by.
Right.
But the thing is that from 2002 to 2004, they're all stick. All Murcielagos are stick, and it's because in 2004 they developed the E-Gear single clutch automated transmission from '04 to '06. There was still quite a few cars ordered stick. Then when you get to the LP640, because they re-engineered the gearbox, into the gearbox was so controversial, the single clutch E-Gear, they redesigned it for 2005 for the Gallardo. So because when the Gallardo came out, it came out with the E-Gear.
Okay.
And it also came out with an optional stick. In 1 year, they ended up re-gearing or redesigning a part of the transmission so that way it wouldn't keep eating clutches away.
Okay.
But in 2006 was the revamped version of the transmission for the LP640, so a second revision for that car. The transmission got so much better and so much more livable that people stopped ordering the manuals, and that's why there's like just 29 6-speed, I believe it's 28, 29 6-speed Murcielago LP640s in North America themselves.
Right, yeah.
So, but from 2004 to 2000, early 2006, you can find a decent amount of 6-speed Murcielagos.
I mean, as well as you could find Murcielagos,
Right,
yeah.
absolutely. You know what's funny is this actually might become eventually rarer than a 6-speed Murcielago LP640. This is something people don't know. In 2004, it might be 2004 or 2005. I think it was 2005. No, 2004. I'm sorry. It was 2004. When the E-Gear launched with the Murcielago, they also launched it with the Roadster. To find a 2004 to 2006 Roadster with a 6-speed, that's a rare car.
Okay.
Very rare, because a Roadster version of the first generation Murcielago that generation of Murcielago was only from '04 to '06.
Okay.
So when that launched with an E-Gear, lots of E-Gear orders came in. So from '04 to '06, it's essentially a 2-year car, and a 2-year Roadster with the 6.2 liter V12 versus the 6.5. So a manual transmission from '04 to '06 in a Roadster is exceptionally rare. And it's actually one of the things that's kind of slept on right now because everyone wants the LPs with the 6-speeds.
So everyone go out and buy your nearest
Absolutely.
Lambo.
There's a pristine one in Florida that I saw for sale. I believe it's I can't remember the dealership. I apologize. They're a really cool dealership. They have all kinds of rare cars. But they have a Monterey Blue Murcielago. I think it's an 06. So in the middle of '06 is when they came out with the LP640. So you can still find some first gen 06s. But it's an 06 final few cars of the Roadster and the first gen, and it's a 6-speed manual transmission. That's got to be a one of just two or one of one. Crazy.
That's insane.
So
do you know how much they wanted for it?
I think it's a little over 300 because you're talking almost LP640 manual money because it only has like 1,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
So you're talking one of the cleanest Roadster examples on the planet.
So did you get to ride in the Murcielago or anything?
You know what's actually interesting? I drove. I took a 2009 LP560-4 Gallardo Spider to my prom. That had the E-Gear transmission. That transmission, everyone hates that transmission, and rightfully so. It's a horrible transmission in the conceptualization of a transmission. But when you drive fast, I have never been in a more brutal car and more exciting car than that one. And I've been in 1,000 horsepower Hellcats under my right foot. I've driven an Aston Martin convertible V12 with the 6-speed automatic. But that car still, there's nothing that tops the brutality of that car. and when you're flooring it and you're going through the gears, it's like someone is just punching you in the back every time you pull the paddle. It's like you just shift forward, and at low speeds it's terrible, but when you're going fast it all makes sense.
Have you driven a PDK?
I have driven a PDK.
What are your thoughts on the PDK? Because I felt similar to that about the PDK. Now I haven't driven obviously an E-Gear.
Oh, they couldn't be more different.
Really?
If you thought the PDK had any level of aggression,
I thought it did.
The E-Gear is going to throw you around like you're in a trampoline, man. It's crazy.
Have you driven or been in a first gen, well, not first gen, but an R35 GTR, like a new or older one?
Yeah.
I drove an 09.
That shift's pretty smooth.
It was at very low speeds, though.
It's a little clunky.
Yeah.
That was just it was one of the first DCTs to ever come out. So I applaud Nissan for, putting that kind of technology together. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But, I have been in a 820 wheel horsepower GTR. Shifts are like instantaneous.
Yeah.
I think that may have been with upgraded clutches though, so you never know.
Yeah.
But it was a little clunky, but I guarantee you will never experience anything quite like an E-Gear. It's
interesting. That's like the peak review. If I could review a Lambo, that's like I'll sell everything off. So what other interesting cars have you driven or owned? Because you actually pulled up in a pretty cool Volvo.
Thanks.
I've never messed around with Volvos, honestly.
So that Volvo was a panic purchase because my Jeep dropped a valve.
Oh, nice.
And I needed transportation.
Right.
And I had no money. I had a little bit of money to buy something. I was just going to go out on a whim and buy like $1,000 Civic. But that would have rust and all the poor maintenance and blah blah blah. Found a guy selling a Volvo, $1,600, 138,000 miles. I'm like, this car's actually looking pretty clean. Then when I go to the parking lot, there's some unspecified damage to the rear, and the car was from Las Vegas, and also from Kentucky. I guess the car or the owner.
Interesting.
Don't even get me started about the
muddy
panic attack that I had trying to register it.
Oh,
because looking at all the owners and how the Carfax had misreported mileage and blah blah blah. My belief is that the previous owner passed away, and the car sat for a long time because I found a sticker on the window that said next oil change at 140,500 miles. I'm like, great, I'm getting really close to there.
Yeah.
And I look at the sticker, it says 2015.
Interesting.
And why would I be close in 2019?
Yeah. What, 4 years later?
It was a Volvo of Las Vegas sticker. So,
interesting.
But the great thing about the car, it's mechanically sound everywhere. It needs some new motor mounts. It needs some work.
Don't we all?
Not an ounce of rust underneath the body.
Really?
And those
it looked pretty clean.
Yeah.
What year is it?
It's a 99.
Okay.
So it's got leather seats, factory Harman Kardon.
Wow.
It's cool, man. I mean, it's slow as hell.
Yeah.
The 5-cylinder sounds great. It's not a turbo.
It is a 5-cylinder.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's a 5-cylinder.
They always intrigue me so much. I don't know why an automaker goes like 5-cylinder.
Honestly, I think that is strange. There's no the 5-cylinder is kind of like the V10. There's no inherent benefit of building one.
It's honestly just
a middle
for bragging
child.
rights.
It's a wild child engine.
Yeah. Because I know
it doesn't do anything particularly better than an inline 4.
It's not any more balanced. If anything, it's less balanced.
It's lots more vibration. That's why the motor mounts are probably shot. It's a 5-cylinder. When it revs to 6, it sounds like it just wants to jump out of the hood. But it's an auto tragic. But it's a daily. It's something. It's fun.
Yeah, I actually just worked on my daily today. It makes me want to shoot myself.
But coolest car I've driven. I mean, to be completely honest. Oh, let that pass.
Oh yeah, we need to soundproof this, but yeah.
So, without a doubt, the coolest car I've ever driven. That's tough.
Yeah,
that's tough.
It's like asking what your favorite car is.
Yeah, that's tough. I think it will soon be the Murcielago because a certain client of mine will be letting me drive a certain Murcielago. Not saying it's a red. It could be a red car. It could be not.
Or a blue car from the Florida dealership.
Or it could be a yellow car from California. You never know.
So sick.
Yeah. So that will probably be the coolest car I'll ever drive. But as of recent.
Yeah, that's peaking right there.
Yeah. But I think so far it's going to be it's hard for me to say best car because in terms of best car, the 488. My friend Mike has let me drive the 488 twice, and that is as a Lambo guy, that is a stunning car.
Really?
Stunning car.
What year is that?
It's I think it was a 16 or
oh wow,
I
okay,
believe
yeah.
It's a 16. So it's a 16 488 Spider. And
okay.
with the foldable hardtop, which looks great, top up or top down. That's what I love about that design, about the 488. There's no compromise in the design. It's gorgeous. Except if you option for the front camera, which is stuck right in the bumper, looks like a mole. Anyway.
That's one of my biggest gripes with auto manufacturers. No one knows what to do with cameras.
Yeah,
now that they're mandated backup cameras, they're like, stick it here.
I like how Volkswagen integrated them into the badge and they pop out of the trunk. That's cool, but that to me that just sounds like something that's gonna break.
Yes, but also the new Miata, it's dead in the center of the back bumper. It's just a black box.
But thankfully, Mike didn't get the front camera on the 48. But the thing that I found so amazing about it is even though people rag about the sound, how it doesn't sound anywhere near as crazy as the 458, auto manufacturers have a tendency to completely mute turbochargers. And it's because they think that they sound brash and probably teen boyish.
Yeah.
Because thanks to some guy in a Focus ST with a BOV or a Neon SRT4.
Oh yeah.
Going up every block, just vroom, just completely obnoxious.
I was recently one of those guys. My friend lent me his Mazda Speed 3 for the week, had a huge blow-off, and every time I accelerated...
Definitely not knocking those cars, though. They're cool. They're, fun.
Super fun. But I understand where you're coming from. It's loud and obnoxious.
Yeah, and people, I guess, somehow were like, you know what? Turbochargers shouldn't make those noises. I think you're taking away all of the character of a turbocharger.
Right.
Turbocharger is character.
Right.
That is character itself. And what I loved about the 488, it didn't hide the fact that it was twin turbocharged. It made the
Is it
noises, V8? 3.9 twin turbo V8.
Okay.
And the 458 had a 4.5 liter V8. That's about as easy as the name gets.
Yeah.
Because when you go from 488, the engine gets smaller. But a 3.9 twin turbo V8, they make that car and the turbo noises a part of the character of the car.
Yeah.
Exhaust note, turbo noises, blow off valve. I love when you're going fast and you hear these little whistles behind you, and then when you let off from going really fast and doing a speed you shouldn't be doing, the turbos just go psh, really loud, and you're like, dude, this is crazy. And I was so I was scared because there was a few times where the car kicked out on me wildly when the turbochargers rolled.
Are they rear wheel drive?
Yes.
Okay.
And the car, when the first time I was driving it, Mike was like, tires are cold, so be careful. 5 minutes in, I come past a sweeping corner, and I roll into the power in third gear, and we're doing, I don't know, 40, 60, in a 40, 60 mile an hour zone. I can't remember. And as I'm rolling into the power, the back end just comes around just like whoosh, and I have to immediately snap it back into place. Then I took it on the highway later, and it just, once you're at a certain speed, it just dead hooks. And holy crap, man. I'm so impressed with that car. I think I might own one over our 458 if given I ever run into the financial ability to do so.
Yeah.
And even if I am able to bring myself to owning a Ferrari as a Lambo guy. So, but the thing I loved about it is it was a sketchy car, because it would snap out on you.
Yeah.
The noises were crazy in the interior, and it feels authentic. There's nothing hidden about it. They know it's twin turbo. They don't hide that from you. The GTC4 Lusso, it's hidden from you a little bit more. I've only ridden on that car, never driven. The Lusso T. Mm-hmm. But I will say that 488 blew me away.
Really?
I wasn't expecting to be dumbfounded by it, but really awesome car. I really do think it's one of the most... It's a shame. It's one of the most overlooked cars. Because people say, oh, it doesn't sound anything like the 458. Yeah, okay, great. But... granted, it doesn't scream to 9,000 like the 458 did, and it doesn't have that super linear power band.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about how exciting they made that twin turbo engine.
Yeah.
And easily that. I have to drive a Gallardo again because I may have just been completely in love with it because I never really drove a performance car. So I want to get into one again.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Because one of my, a long time ago, my friend had a Subaru Legacy GT wagon, And shout out Nick. That thing got totaled recently.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. Some girl in a Jeep didn't see him and hit him. But that car was like so quick to me. It was a flat 4 2-liter turbo.
Yeah.
And now going back to it, because then I ended up reviewing it 2-3 years later. I was like, oh, this is surprisingly average for the level of car. So I understand, and also it's your prom night. You're in a Lambo on your prom night. Like I don't think there's any bigger ecstasy than that.
Yeah,
like,
that was pretty crazy. That was really an insane day because as soon as I drove it, I'm like, dude, I don't want to go to prom.
I was just about to say, screw the dance.
I almost didn't go. I was by myself too. It wouldn't have mattered. I didn't take it a date. I just went by myself, and so I should probably tell you that story. We pick up the car from a rental company. I worked the whole year to be able to afford one day of rental. It's expensive. It's expensive, and I worked really hard. I saved a bunch of money, paid for this one day experience. I'm riding in it. My stepdad's driving it because he's the one who rented it, and what's it called? So we're driving, and the ride quality is horrible. Every time we hit a bump, my head is hitting the convertible top. And like my knees are cramped and I'm like, this sucks. What's going on? It's then we finally get to the house. We drive back from the city to my house. Yeah. Which is about, 25 miles away from the city. Okay. 20, 30 miles. And, he throws me the keys and he's like, I'm going to go on the phone. I got to handle something. Just be careful. I'm like, okay. He's like, remember where you are. Don't do anything stupid. My stepdad's a cop. So what ended up happening was I ended up getting in it. A friend noticed me from a block away and pulled in, was like, dude, how? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I rented it. And he's like, dude, that's insane. And so I had like a bunch of people like hitting me up as soon as that happened. I was just, my phone, I just didn't look at my phone really. Yeah. The first time I drove it though, like drove it, I backed out of the driveway. I pointed it right down my street. It was about my street is pretty much a quarter mile long. It's a good amount of space. And I'm at the end of the street. My house is at the end of the street. Yeah. I put it in gear, and I drop the top first because I want to hear it. You have to. And I put it in gear. I put it in sport mode in Lamborghini. Who would have thought? Yeah. And I floor it. Big mistake. Because the rears, it's a 70% torque split to the rear in that car.
Are they all-wheel?
They are all-wheel.
I didn't realize that.
70, well, the LP560-4 is all-wheel. LP550-2 is two-wheel. -2.
Never knew.
-2 and -4 designations are the drive wheels. That's why LP580-2 is the rear-wheel drive Huracan.
Never knew that.
Yeah. So
so you mashed the throttle.
Lit the rears up a little bit. It nearly hit redline. Like, I'm just spinning, and then I gotta tell you, even though people prefer the 5-liter Scream from the first generation Gallardo, there's something to be said about the way the 5.2 sounds. The old 5.2 liter V10. So the one in the in the second generation Gallardo, because in the Huracan it's a much more high pitched scream. The deep growl from that engine all the way to 8,400. There's no way to describe it but just goosebumps. It sounds like the freaking end of the world is going on behind you, and then you go for the paddle and you just get shunted forward. And it's just like this delivery of just savage power to 8,400. It's the most savage delivery of power I have ever experienced. And that's coming from someone who's driven a 1,000 horsepower Hellcat.
I know. Literally, it's so funny that we've driven the same 1,000 horsepower Hellcat. That's what I refer to everything as. I'm like, I said it in a review recently. I drove a 1,000 horsepower Hellcat. I was driving a lifted Pontiac Sunfire off road, and I was going down a 45-degree embankment. I'm like, Jesus. I've driven 1,000 horsepower cars, and I'm not screaming as much as I am right now. Yeah. I love that we have the same benchmark. But why was that a horrible decision? To light up the tires.
Because I had the cops calling me 3 times in the first hour.
I mean, that's part of the ownership. Not ownership, but that's part of the experience.
I scared the crap out of my mom because I promised her I wouldn't go fast, and I immediately lied to her. I get in it, I downshift, and I just floor it.
I
love that. The thing that I loved about that car was the sense of occasion. It may have been the flagship base model Lambo. It didn't feel like that at all.
Right.
It felt like this completely savage, visceral machine that would beat you up at any time you decided to let your guard down.
Yeah.
And I learned that too because it stepped out on me really hard. Because, like I said, my experience with its performance cars, I literally went Jeep Liberty, Mitsubishi Lancer, Dodge Grand Caravan, Lamborghini Gallardo. That was my experience with cars. Oh, and Dodge Charger V6.
Whoa, V6.
Yeah,
Slow
I know.
it down.
Sorry, open differential V6. What about it? One tire fire. If I wait long enough on the brakes, it will do it.
I actually just reviewed a 2016 V6 all-wheel drive. It would have been a fantastic car if they wouldn't have called it the Charger, because it's not a Charger. It's not V8 rear-wheel drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as a daily driver, those are sick. But so that was you went from a Caravan to a Gallardo.
Well, I drove a Liberty. I drove my brother's van one time. I drove my stepdad's Lancer. My mom used to have a V6 Charger. I drove all those. Then I went straight to a Gallardo LP560-4 Spider. And that was the most... And you know, I will say the motor in the Hellcat is so... visceral and savage in its delivery of the power, but the rest of the car makes it a little bit more easy to access it. The delivery of the Gallardo is just outrageously savage power and aggression and complete uncomfort. That's what makes it feel so crazy.
It feels like you're bolted to the engine.
Oh yeah,
that was the thing with the Hellcat.
When you revved it in place, the firewall would shake behind you, and I was terrified of that car, but I love it. It makes sense. I long for the day that I drive that car again.
Yeah,
I really do.
Because how long ago was that?
2016. It's 2019.
Right.
I still wasn't into photography at the time. I got into photography at the end of that summer.
But, I mean, I would be interested to see your opinion 3 years later.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I found a Gallardo, or a company that rents out a Gallardo Performante.
Really?
It's like a new one. It's like not the car. It's like a new company. They have. I asked them about a Gallardo Spider they had, and then they're like, which is just an insane deal on the pricing, and you know, I think it might change. They're probably just trying to get some clientele because they're a new company, and but the price they threw me was astounding, and it was a Performante. It was half the price of what I paid for a Gallardo Spider in 2016.
Interesting.
And it's because there was no luxury rental competition in the city. I actually technically rented the only Lamborghini you could rent in the city of Chicago in 2016. Because there was no competition. Like now you can go to DS Luxury and a bunch of other companies, and Turo has competition. And
have you ever used Turo, by the way?
Yep.
How is that?
R8 V10 Spider. That's how I have such why I have such a strong opinion about the Gallardo and the R8. The R8 with the same e-gear. They branded it as the R-Tronic. So much smoother, so much more relaxed. You can drive it daily. Like, it's not that bad for single clutch transmission. It's super smooth, unaggressive.
Yeah.
When you get on, it gives you a little kick, and because it's a single clutch and all that stuff. But it's the same transmission. Same, because if you look underneath the transmission, there's a bull stamp on the transmission case.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, basically, I drove that car. I was bored of it within the first 3 hours. Because it just didn't... I was thinking it was like a discount Lambo,
Yeah, that's
and it was the same engine, but the power, the delivery was so much more like smooth, and it was more drivable, and it could go over things easier, and it's a great car, but it's not... It feels like a supercar for someone who wants something they can drive every day. That's exactly what it is.
That's interesting.
It's like they completely pull the occasion out of a supercar. That's why I feel so strongly about the R8. Granted, then I was in a supercharged R8, And holy crap, the character difference is insane. It felt like the Gallardo, to be completely honest. Because when they supercharge it, they basically set it up like an E-gear.
Yeah.
It was like a stasis, so it felt just like an E-gear.
I'm interested because hopefully... I hope to drive a Lambo one day. But this summer, I'm going to go out to Ohio to review a 6-speed V8 R8. It's a V8, but I'm interested to see...
You know what's funny? People think I have a complete and utter hatred and opposition to the V8. I don't. I think the V10 is a better motor in terms of power, torque, the way it's delivered. It's a little bit more fitting for the car. V8 is more fitting for it because it's R8 V8. But the V10 kind of amplifies the performance higher because that V8 doesn't have a whole lot of torque down low. And
that's how I felt. I did last year. I actually reviewed it in Vegas. I did a 2017 Shaker Challenger.
Okay, RT?
It was the 392 Scat Pack.
Okay.
So that was my only thing with it. Is like I'm like, this is a great engine. This is a great car. The only thing that sucks about it is that there's another step above it.
Yeah.
The Hellcat, which in my opinion is better.
I feel like if I had a V8 R8, I'd be just the whole time I'd own it, I'd just be like, damn it, I wish I had 2 more cylinders.
Right.
I really do. But granted, I think the V8 has more character because they were allowed to give it character.
Right.
The V8 will give you more laughs than the V10 because the V10 needs to be purposely worse than the Gallardo.
Right.
At that time when they were building the Gallardo
Gen
R8. Now it's Huracan and the R8 don't really seem to have a whole lot different. Maybe the Huracan's a little bit more crazy, louder. It could be the same Gallardo effect. Could be a little bit more crazy and harsh, and then the R8's smoother and all that stuff. I haven't driven either of those, so...
Okay. Speaking of the Lamborghini, Audi, sort of, how do you feel about the Urus, or the Urus?
You know, at first I was outright positive. I saw the concept, loved the concept. Then the production came out, I'm like, okay, well, it downsized a little bit. They smoothed out the front a lot. I can't form an opinion until I drive it.
Right.
It's one of those things where I look at it kind of indifferent. It looks wild. I love it. You can order it blue, yellow, purple, green. Crazy. Love that.
And I know that Lambo has always had good colors.
Oh, yeah.
Always had the best colors.
Yeah, they've had an amazing selection. So I'm glad that, but when I see like a white one or a black one, I'm just like, dude, you should have got blue. You should have got, you should have got something controversial. That adds to the supercar experience. Like looking out, being in a heavy, big SUV and looking in your mirror and it's freaking blue. Crazy.
Yeah.
Who does that?
That's the thing. Like some people are like, oh, my uncle's, stepdad's 1,000 horsepower Supra could beat that Lambo. It's like, yeah, it could, but who's going to turn more heads? 3-year-olds to 90-year-olds love Lambos. Not everyone's going to know what a 1,000 horsepower Supra is.
You might just be that annoying guy, but I do love Supras. I actually, it's weird. My favorite, if I had to pick a Japanese car, it would be a Mark IV Supra, just because I love that car. Mm-hmm. Even though the fan base completely bloated it out and, Bring a Trailer has knocked the prices up to 6 figures and all that stuff. If I had to own a tuner, it would be a Mark IV Supra just because I love the way it looks.
Yeah.
The way it looks is 50% of a car for me.
Have you ever been in a rotary? Or
no.
Near a road? Okay.
Nope.
Interesting. I might have to take you around the block in the old RX-7.
I have never been in a rotary car. I've been in cars with no torque, if that's what you're asking.
Wow. All right, podcast ended. No, I agree. It makes no torque. I think I threw down 115 at the dyno.
Wheel torque?
Or torque. Wheel torque.
Oh, that's not too bad.
It's not horrible.
That's probably more torque than my freaking Volvo. From factory, I had 168 horse and like 150 torque or something around there. Now, 140,000 miles later, it's probably dynoing the same torque number. And also, you're not geared taller than Yao Ming. Yeah. That automatic is geared so tall, and all the powers, I've had to do some things to get to work that I'm not proud of because it just isn't fast enough. My Jeep had torque. My Jeep would blow the doors off my Volvo. It just would.
Yeah.
So,
but the reason I bring it up is that just rotaries have been some of the most linear power bands that I've ever driven, for sure.
And then unless you're like maximum 80 mil turbo.
Yeah. Have you ever driven any M3s? Or been around any M3s? Because those have a similarly linear power.
I've been in an F80 M3.
F80. So was that the V8 generation?
No, that's the new twin turbo.
Oh, okay, interesting. I haven't been in any of those. I have driven an M2.
I've been in F82 M4, the coupe.
Oh, okay.
So and it's essentially the same thing.
Honestly, one of my favorite modern cars I've ever driven was a BMW M2. Because they put the straight six, I think it's a twin turbo in it.
Yeah, I believe it's the M4 engine if you get the competition.
It wasn't a competition. This was almost 2 years ago at this point. No, like a year and a half ago.
I think the N55 was in the first one. I swear BMW guys are gonna light me up. I don't know a whole lot.
Always do.
And then they put the N50. Wait, is it the N54? They put whatever engine was in the M4.
Just cover your mouth and I'll edit it in with the Google text-to-speech. I think it was the M54. But yeah, so I'm gonna measure your nerdiness here for a second. Right. If you're on the level, do you have a spreadsheet of the cars that you've driven, or do you have any list?
I don't have a list. I have a mental list.
You need to make a list.
All right. I mean, I can tell you off the bat. Cars I've driven: P100D, Hellcat, Gallardo, R8, V12, or DB9. What else? 488. E63 AMG 2010 with the 6.3.
Okay.
Let's see. I definitely have a longer list of cars I've ridden in.
Yeah.
Stuff I've driven, not so much.
Yeah.
I mean, EcoBoost Mustang, honorable mention.
I actually, the last podcast I did with Max, I literally ranted about, I really didn't like the EcoBoost Mustang.
Really?
I drove a base model.
Okay, I drove a tuned one. That's different.
Okay. Yeah, I'm supposed to review a tuned one. The thing that made me mad, and now I'm sorry, listeners, I'm getting mad again. It says ground speed on the speedometer.
Ground speed?
What? See? Why does it say that?
Where else would you go?
Why else? Max was like, I don't understand why you're mad at that. It's like they just had like an essay that they had to like hit a word count.
it's kind of like when they said that it's kind of like I remember there was an episode of Top Gear when they had the Chrysler Crossfire and that car got a reaming. It got an absolute reaming.
Yeah.
By Jeremy Clarkson. And after the review, and they're like in the the big showroom where they're talking about it, and he's like, just look at this, and he like reads off the stats, and he goes, they say that this car is atmospherically limited to 100 and something. Atmospherically? I think someone meant aerodynamically. I don't know. But that's like a Chrysler thing to say.
Car jargon is just so it sometimes it gets me because it's obviously just the marketing people saying, "Hey, toss this word there."
It sounds cooler. It makes people go, "Ooh, I kind of like."
Like
that.
the Challenger, the Scat Pack said "shaker" on the air vent.
Yeah,
and it's like, why? I could see that it's a shaker. It's shaking right now. You don't need to tell me on the air vent.
Right.
But.
I think it's just because the old car had the shaker. It's probably why they do that. Like, it's the same thing when the Challenger says fuel on the freaking fuel cap. Yeah, like, no shit.
I didn't even think about that.
It says fuel on the fuel cap. If you look at my red eye set and I go through the details, it's like the second to last post I made about the red eye on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Now I'm on the SR5 liftback Corolla. That's the next thing I'm uploading to my Instagram. But the fuel cap says fuel. They all do. They all say fuel.
If I ever
it's a nod to the old cars that had fuel on the fuel door.
But was that ever necessary though?
I don't know.
I would
don't know.
If I ever have dumb money, if I ever make it on YouTube and have dumb money, I'm gonna buy a Challenger and I'm gonna replace fuel and just say juice. I don't know. I'm just gonna put some other label on it just to throw everyone off and piss off all the old guys at the Mopar meets. Just because,
that's a tough crowd. Jeez, I gotta tell you, my favorite American cars are Mopars. They just through and through. I think they have the most character.
I think we have the same car interests with the Lambos and the Mopars.
Yeah,
because
just because I like wild, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Mopar, Lamborghini. Mopar used to own Lamborghini. So from 87 to
wait. That just hit my skull. What?
Dodge, Chrysler used to own Lamborghini. From 87,
I totally forgot about that.
From 87 to I think 93, 94.
Because the V10 out of the Viper was sort of co-developed, right?
Yeah, they basically turned the whole block to aluminum. That's all they really did.
I'd like to imagine it was one meeting. Hey, make it aluminum. All right, we got other stuff to do.
That's pretty much the only involvement they've had with that motor.
That's interesting. Did you do Paul's Viper?
A little bit.
Yeah,
I did a little bit of the Viper.
That was a horrible car to drive. Horrible.
So when we were going on the back roads of Pennsylvania, I've never been more scared in my goddamn life.
Than in that Viper? You guys took it out there?
Yeah,
I forgot about
that. We trailered it to PA.
I totally forgot about that.
And then on one of these days, we took it on the back road. I'm like, dude, I was shitting my pants because we're going like through these corners at like just speeds. I'm like, please, and it's like it stepped out on him a couple times. I'm like,
yeah,
oh my god.
That whole day, because Paul gave it to me, and he goes, hey, I have to do business work. Bring it back tonight. He's like, you can have 6-8 hours with the car, whatever you want.
Sick.
And I was like, double thumbs up, dude. I got a Viper for the day, right?
And it was hard to drive, right?
So the first couple times I shifted, I would hit the brake and the clutch because it was so close.
They're super close.
The cabin, a lot of people don't realize, is like a teardrop, right?
Yep.
So your shoulders, you got perfect width, dude. They filmed like 2 movies on the center console, like totally. But then it curves in, and your feet have no room. And my knee kept hitting the dash, and it was hot.
Yeah.
And
so hot. Oh my god, don't even get me started.
I'm ripping on it, right? I'm driving it around all day. I took it to my dad's work. I showed all my dad's coworkers. Like, I popped the hood for him, which was terrifying to close. Because Paul was like, oh, one last thing. That hood is all one piece, and it's $15,000.
Yep.
Bring it back. And I was
if you crash, you use one, and it's frame damage, they total it.
Yeah. And then... so I drove it for a couple hours. I brought it to my girlfriend's house because she has a little brother that's, likes cars and stuff. And
it's a brutal car, dude. It's one of those things where you really have to have, like, a knack for it.
Yeah.
I think the problem for me is I would, like I've loved the Viper. I've loved the ridiculous engine sound. And the thing is like, for me, is, like, even though I like crazy cars that kind of want to kill me, like Lambos,
right?
Like at least older Lambos. The Viper, I don't know what it is. I just never saw like I think the problem for me is the awfulness of almost everything about it. Like I like the 2000s Lambos, the Mercy Gallardo.
Yeah.
Those cars are a little bit more livable, and they're still wild.
Yeah.
The Viper, how you live with one, I don't know.
3 hours. I made it 3 hours.
And you get it back?
I drained half the tank of gas.
Yep.
So I had to go fill it up 93. That's a chunk of change. Which also the guy at the gas station used the intercom on the gas station. He's like, is that a Viper?
Are you serious?
I have it on video. And because I knew, I'm like, someone's going to see this. Because I pulled into a very busy gas station. I'm like, so I left my microphone on, my little lapel mic. And I'm filling up gas. And I hear this thing go on. I'm like, I didn't even know there was a speaker. He goes, is that a 92 Viper? And I'm like, it's a 98. And he goes, that thing's awesome. It's at the end of the review. But I drained half the tank, and I just, after 3 hours, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It was an amazing experience. I'm so glad I got to do it. I can't afford to drive this all day. I don't want to pay for it if something happens to it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, my body's paying for it because my knees hurt. I burned my calves on the getting out because they're like, hey, let's stick the exhaust pipe right under where everyone puts their feet.
That happened.
That's smart.
That happened to me. That car, dude, just riding it was brutal.
Yeah, it's one of the best examples of you gotta love the craft.
Yep.
If you don't love it, you are. What I said in the video was, I really genuinely felt like the Viper is a Hot Wheels car that a kid wished to life.
Yep. No, that's exactly what it is. I think I've heard so many iterations of this, but what a lot of people say the Viper is like is if you let a kid make his own dinner, you let a kid, you literally let a kid make his own car. It's going to have a big, ridiculous engine, and it's going to look crazy, and have a crazy color, and manual, and,
Right. What's better than a V8, V10, and then, the other thing was that it had such low visibility. I'm like, I can't see.
You're slanted, like, the roof comes down hard, and you just have, like, this window like this. But here's the good thing. You could see all around left to right. Perfect for tracks. That car was a track monster when it came out, and it still does dominate in some.
Oh yeah, I go out to Grid Life and Autobahn, all those events and stuff, and there's always a couple Vipers going out there.
Yeah, they kill it, man. They really do.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the cool cars. That was one of the best weeks because I filmed that car, and then on the weekend I filmed a '98 NSX. I drove that. Oh, wow. That was a really smooth car too.
Yeah.
Because it had VTEC, but it doesn't kick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like Civic VTEC where it's like, you know. I hate Civic VTEC with a burning passion, but that's for a whole nother podcast. Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up here soon. Okay. I have one last question for all my guests.
All right.
And I think this might be a lengthy one, but if you had an unlimited budget, what would you buy? You could buy one.
One car?
One car.
To be completely honest,
it's the Volvo outside, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'd put a turbo Bizzarini on it. A single turbo V12 from an old school Lambo. Just put
honestly, that would be really cool.
No, I wouldn't do that. Are you kidding me? That's so much sacrilege.
Yeah.
So, I think I would honestly buy, and this is coming from a Lamborghini guy, if I had one car to buy in the world, it would be a Koenigsegg Agera.
Interesting.
I am absolutely floored and astonished with what they were able to create with that car. And when I look at those cars, man, there's something that they have just nailed with me.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the savageness of the twin turbo V8s and just their utter craft and attention to everything. Everything has detail. I love that. Everything, when you look at the screws that are in place, everyone is exact, like everything is exactly where it should be. The car is the definition, in my opinion, of automotive perfection.
Yeah,
it really is.
Have you photographed one?
Well, one time I did, and that was kind of like unofficial. But I've been trying to hold it back. I guess this is. I put a teaser out of my story of a car that I would be working with soon.
Okay.
It just happens to be a Swedish mega car. And
there's so many to choose from.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And I put a story out, and because I was at dinner with my client's assistant. I got a huge client for 2019. Super excited to work with him. Crazy cars, a diverse range of cars. Yeah. I'm so excited to work with. But you know. I put the teaser out, and I only got a couple people messaging me like, congratulations. And I think it's because no one believes me.
Yeah.
No one believes me, but that's totally fine. And even if people believe me and just didn't say anything, doesn't matter. It's cool.
Right.
It's totally fine. But I will be working with some Swedish mega cars, to be specific.
Is there a difference?
Well, mega car would be referring to 1 megawatt of horsepower per ton.
Oh. I didn't know that was like a thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So
a mega car. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Koenigsegg redefined. Oh well, that just gives it away. Koenigsegg redefined the segment of their cars. Their mega cars.
Yeah.
As long as you get any Agera RS with a 1 package or a 1-to-1 or a Regera and the Jesko, those are all mega cars.
Huh.
Because they achieve 1 megawatt. I'm sorry, it's 1 megawatt of horsepower per kilogram, and it's not exactly 1-to-1. It's more than 1-to-1 by several margins.
Yeah.
Because the weight is low and the horsepower is high.
Huh.
So they're on a level of acceleration that's not matched.
Yeah.
It's just unreal. But for me, I would unlimited budget Koenigsegg Agera RS, and I would do it in something like Viola SE30 purple.
Interesting.
Because Lambo color, you know. But
But
no, I'm gonna be working with some really amazing hyper and mega cars.
I'm excited to see it.
Thanks.
I always love seeing the work. And so speaking of which, as we'll end it out, where can people find you?
It's Timbro Photo on Instagram, Timbro Photography on Facebook. I upload lots of my work to the Chicagoland Petrolheads and Car Spotters page. They didn't send me. I'm just a big fan of the group.
Yeah, no. If you guys are car fans, it's definitely one of the big groups. You gotta join on Facebook.
Sometimes it gets a lot out of control, but you know the admins are fair. Great group of people. I share a lot of my work to there first before my Instagram.
Really? So, I didn't know that.
Yeah, almost all my work goes there first. Like tonight, I'm going to be probably posting the SR5 liftback Corolla, and then the Countach later in the week. So yeah, but I guess if there's anything that I can really say is that I just love diversity in all my work. Koenigsegg, Toyota Corolla liftbacks.
Yeah.
Hellcats.
Yeah.
Countachs. Just the ranges are unreal. And I want people to follow me for me and my work, not specifically the cars.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy the cars, that's really cool too. But I love people who appreciate my craft.
Right.
And I'm hoping it can go to a professional level.
Yeah, so. And that's a huge thing. Guys, if you are into any form of cars, I mean, you just have a great portfolio of work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And definitely go check it out because, yeah, I think it's definitely one of the more aesthetically pleasing accounts on Instagram
and
Facebook.
I appreciate it.
So.
Thank you
so
right. much.
Thank you guys for listening, and catch you next time.
Thank you.
Aside from my soul.